South Korea's baseball season finished with a historic win by the NC Dinos, who won their first ever Korea Series championship since they joined professional baseball in 2013. The Dinos celebrated their extraordinary win brandishing a massive sword, a replica of an iconic weapon in the game Lineage developed by NC Soft, which owns the baseball team. The NC Dinos clinched their 2020 Korean Series title, beating the Dusan Bears with a 4-2 victory in Game 6 of the best-of-7 championship round. We discussed this incredible feat today observed in Korea and around the world with Min Hoon-gi, Sport TV commentator based here in Seoul, who has been in sports journalism for over 30 years. Thank you ever so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
We also connect with Daniel Kurtz, founder of MyKBO, an online platform that brings Korean baseball to the world. He joins us from Tacoma, Washington. It's wonderful to see you again.
Oh, thank you for having me on again.
Well, Mr. Min, let's start with you. I want to begin with your reaction to the NC Dinos win. Did you expect them to do so well?
Well, actually, yes. Even before the season started, I expected the NC Dinos would have a good season. And after I covered them at the spring training at Arizona, I was quite sure they have the tools and everything to go all the way. And front office, they're doing their jobs, and coaching staffs doing their jobs. And the players, most players mature through the 2019 season. And then they have a slugger, Na Sang-bum, with them full season. They're a much better team. And also with Luchinsky and Altair, they have the best foreign squad too. So yes, I expect them to win the series.
And your reaction, Mr. Kurtz? The NC Dinos, of course, this was their very first Korean Series championship since they were established in 2011. So they're a relatively young team. Would you say this was a quick success for them because they won the championship in less than a decade in a very, very fierce competitive league?
Yes, I would say that this proves that NC's way of constructing and running the team works, and it should be an example to the rest of the teams in the KBO. So with NC being one of the more analytic and data-driven teams in the league, we've already seen more and more KBO teams jump onto this and try to use that way for their scouting and front office. And then, like Min Hoon-gi just brought up, with their foreign players, I have to commend NC's foreign player scouting department for their consistency and success their foreign players have had over the years, not just for this season, but in previous seasons as well. So just by winning the KBO championship in only 7 seasons, the NC Dinos just put their regional rivals, the Lotte Giants, on the hot seat because the Lotte hasn't won a title since 1992, and NC just won it in only 7 years.
Wow. Well, Mr. Min, among the NC Dinos, catcher Yang Eui-ji shone throughout the games, and he was later crowned MVP of the series. What did you make of his performance?
Well, he's a true leader. He's the best catcher in KBO, who's leading the staff solidly every game all season. And he's the cleanup hitter of this very strong lineup. And he is also captain, and he's the leader on and off the field. I still remember, what he said during the interview with the Sport TV at the spring training. Only thing he's expecting from his team is winning the championship. That's what he said in spring training, and he was the true leader of this team to make that goal possible.
Wow, real ambition, dedication there, and leadership, as you just said so. And Mr. Kurtz, when they were celebrating this victory, it was very interesting and entertaining to see the NC Dinos getting a giant sword instead of a trophy after clinching their very first win, of course. What do you make of that? And do you think it could potentially spark a new tradition in baseball with teams receiving unique tokens for their win? I mean, in the Korean Series or even American baseball?
I absolutely love that NC celebrated with it, like execution sword from the video game Lineage. I thought it was a very clever idea to incorporate, something from one of the games that NC Software, the owners of the NC Dinos, produces. and it's also very on brand, so it stayed within the NC brand itself. And I know that when the media here in the United States saw the sword, fans were impressed. They loved the idea. There's been memes and on social media, just things going on of like MLB players, if what happens if they celebrated the World Series win with a sword. And so it is very well liked here in the United States. And I personally like that the idea was actually originally player driven and initially thought up by NC's Park Min-woo. So I think that it was a great idea, and I think it caught the sports world by surprise, and it was very entertaining.
And Mr. Kurtz, in fact, lots of North Carolinas, they've been calling NC Dinos their local team because of the acronym, of course, NC. And the Durham Bulls, home to Durham of North Carolina, they've actually shown support for the KBO League. Do you think this is just a passing fad, or do you see baseball fans in North Carolina continuing to follow KBO from now on?
Well, NC's partnership with the Durham Bulls is one of the many storylines that happened in this past season here in 2020. And I thought that was great the way that a minor league baseball team here in the United States just took to the NC Dinos, a team from all the way from Korea to them. And their fans in North Carolina have hopped on that bandwagon. I hope that partnership continues. And there's been a few other partnerships that have sprung up this season as well between some minor league teams and KBO teams that they're following. So I hope that it's not just a fad. I hope that this is just the beginning for these partnerships to spring up from around the world.
And what do you think it is about Korean baseball that US fans are really starting to love and have started to love throughout this year during this pandemic, Mr. Kurtz?
Well, my hope for this season was that the fans here in the United States will continue to follow the KBO and its teams even after this pandemic-driven season. I think that despite not being MLB, the new fans of the league found the KBO refreshing and exciting style of baseball, because not only did they have bat flips, they had sacrifice bunts, and even it was always brought up on the ESPN broadcast some of the times the shaky relief pitching. But that actually led to more, exciting games in the end. They had more comebacks, more walk-off wins for teams, and that is what the fans here in the United States just seem to grab onto. And now with all the major sports around the world coming back, I still think there's a small niche market here in the United States that for the KBO. And so with the games that start at 6:30 p.m. in Korea, it means that, the games here in the United States are being played early in the morning. And that early in the morning time slot, there's generally no live sports going on. And so right now there's kind of a void for no live sports. Me being a sports fan, I always want live sports no matter the time. So for the KBO and ESPN or another broadcasting partner to connect again for the upcoming season, it'd be great, because it'd fill that niche for live sports early in the morning that I think that there's a small pocket of people around that have just jumped onto that bandwagon of the KBO.
Right, so a potential niche market there. And Mr. Min, this year, as we just mentioned, South Korean baseball has grown a very large following in the United States. And I really wonder how it makes you feel as a reporter who really witnessed the evolution of Korean baseball over your 34 years in media. I mean, what do you think makes Korean baseball so unique for the world audience?
Well, it was unexpected, but it was very amazing and exciting. For US fans, they have chance to meet new kind of baseball, just like Daniel mentioned before. And overall, it's not as strong as MLB, but 10 teams compete fiercely every night. And KBO has very many talented young players too. Not only bat flips, so-called fandom. We have different baseball culture, such as pitchers bow batters when they hit them, and actually U.S. fans love that kind of side too. And we have great fan culture, even though we didn't have much chance to show them. And I think U.S. fans like these kind of good differences.
So a lot more to look forward to from Korean baseball. And in terms of that, Mr. Min, who do you think are some up-and-coming players that the world should really watch?
Yeah, actually, as far as the up-and-coming players, we have found many young good ones, like So Hyung-jun of KT, and Lee Min-ho of LG, Song Myung-gi of NC, and Kim Min-gi of Dusan. These are all rookies, 19, 20-year-old pitchers. They can become a great pitchers. And we also have Kim Ho-jae of Samsung and Kim Ung-bin of Kium, and also No Si-hwan of Hanwha, and Bae Jung-dae of KT, Hong Chang-gi of LG. These players, not a rookie, but we found those new faces this year. So we have good pitchers and good young hitters too.
So a lot of exciting new talents to look forward to. Now, Mr. Kurtz, it's been a very silent year in stadiums across the world as baseball leagues in, well, all countries, they've been struggling to hold games due to the coronavirus prevention measures in place. What do you think have been the biggest changes that have to be made, and do you think they're likely to continue throughout next year?
Well, the biggest change for me this season as a fan that watches from abroad was when I turned into the TV broadcast, and maybe Mr. Min can also, attest to this. When you're watching it on TV, it is very quiet and it is very desolate, lonely looking place. It's just the players down on the field. It's quiet. It was odd for me to see that as a fan, because whenever I'm used to in previous seasons turning on the games, I'm used to seeing the stadiums filled with fans, them clapping, them cheering, them singing, and then even when they were able to come back, even like during the Korean series, they were at a reduced number, so it was not near as loud as it's been in the past. So my hope is that with the success that Korea has been having with the COVID-19, as well as the KBO, because they had no major league players, test positive this season, I hope that it will result in stadiums being full starting in 2021 and beyond, because I think the fans deserve that. And the fans here in North America, I know, are just craving to see the true KBO atmosphere.
And Mr. Kurtz, how do you think Korean leagues could become more global and also attract more sponsors and investors from around the world?
I think they need to continue this partnership that they've had with these North American fans. Now, what they did all of a sudden when the ESPN deal started, they started to make an English webpage. They had English social media. They started to do English language shopping malls. So the fans are just, before in the past, to get any kind of merchandise here in the United States, it was very difficult for a non-Korean speaking fan to do that. Now with the likes of the KBO market, which is the official marketplace for the KBO, fans are able to just log on, type in something, whatever they want, order a jersey, order a hat, and they can get it here in a couple of weeks. So if the KBO wants to continue that tradition of this partnership between Korea and the world, they have to continue looking what's best for these fans that are outside of Korea that maybe don't speak Korean. So providing it in the English language or any other language that the league thinks that they have fans at.
And Mr. Min, what do you think are some changes that baseball has experienced throughout the year due to the COVID-19 pandemic? And do you think some of these trends might stay in place going forward?
Well, actually, yeah, baseball game without fans was so awkward, and it never became accustomed. But KBO set up a COVID task force early March, and they created a very detailed COVID-19 manual early of even before the season. So fortunately, we played whole regular season and playoffs without stopping. And for now, it is more likely that various virus prevention measures will be in effect next season. But we know what to do, and we know what not to do. So we will cope with the situation, and we can schedule better next year, and hopefully more fans coming to the stadium and enjoy the game of KBO baseball just like before. But KBO will keep on trying, and I just also want to mention like Daniel and my KBO had a great role to spread out the KBO popularity in the United States, and I believe the show will go on next season too.
Right, so we might not see stadiums back to their full capacity, but as you said, organisers are trying, fans are being incredible, and of course, baseball is still very much being celebrated here in Korea and over in the US as well through platforms like My KBO. So this is where we'll have to end the discussion today, but that was Min Ung-gi, Spo TV commentator in Seoul and decorated sports journalist, and Daniel Kurtz, My KBO founder based in Tacoma, Washington. Thank you both so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And to our viewers, as always, thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful weekend wherever you are. Goodbye.